The Best Picture category at the Academy Awards has certainly had its share of controversial wins in the last 95 years. Some of those early victories really make you scratch your head, like Cimarron, The Greatest Show on Earth, Around the World in 80 Days, and in the last 25 years, we've had a few wins that really rile people up, starting with that shocker triumph for Shakespeare in Love over Saving Private Ryan in 1999, followed a few years later by Crash beating out Brokeback Mountain. I've made in-depth videos about both of these races, giving the many reasons why the surprise wins happened, that final prize going to Crash still enraging me, honestly, after 17 years. Shakespeare in Love is a good movie, others like it more than I do, but it has a great ensemble and compelling storytelling. I just prefer Saving Private Ryan and think that would have been the better win. When it came to 2006, the Best Picture Oscar victory for Crash felt like a huge slap in the face, and still does. I liked Crash fine, but Brokeback Mountain was a groundbreaking masterclass of acting and directing that had a profound effect on me and was easily one of the 2 or 3 finest films of 2005. It won Best Picture pretty much everywhere for months and was the clear favorite going into the Academy Awards. Crash pulled off the SAG Ensemble win, sure, but it didn't seem to be good enough of a movie to beat Brokeback Mountain. Jack Nicholson's surprised voice told us otherwise, however, and thus the worst, ickiest, most unfortunate Best Picture win in the modern era at the Oscars went down for the world to see. Now, thankfully, the Academy redeemed itself in the Best Picture category right after that. The Departed, No Country for Old Men, and Slumdog Millionaire, all fantastic wins, and I've liked or loved most of the other victories in the category since too. Yes, even Coda, which I know has its haters. Parasite is the finest Best Picture winner we've had in the last decade easy, along with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Moonlight, the worst no doubt being Green Book, that unremarkable movie beating out Black Panther, BlacKkKlansman, The Favorite, Roma, and A Star is Born. Like, seriously? But there's one other fairly modern Best Picture race I haven't talked about at all on this channel that has very much annoyed me for 12 years. Kind of like with Green Book, this movie was fine, a crowd pleaser for many, entertaining, good cast, one of those movies a lot of people liked, and therefore, in a crowd of 10 nominees, managed the big victory. And it's just never sat well with me, because in my eyes, every other nominee for Best Picture that year was a better movie, in a few cases, a much better movie. The year in film was 2010, and the ceremony was the 83rd Academy Awards. It was a telecast that gave us incredible nominees all across the board, especially in Best Picture. If you wanted a textbook example of why 10 nominees can be better than 5, just look to this moment when you had a stunning mix of big studio movies, a tiny indie film, an animated masterpiece, a western, horror, LGBTQ, every film completely unlike the other 9, which made the category this time around so incredibly exciting. And at the very top for me were my 3 favorite films of 2010, Toy Story 3, Black Swan, and The Social Network. These are 3 titles I continue to revisit all these years later, their stories not losing an ounce of their power, so striking in the ambitious narrative leaps they make. A Best Picture win for any of those 3 films on Oscar night would have made me jump out of my seat and cheer. Toy Story 3 had no shot given that it was on track to take Best Animated Feature. Honestly, once that category was introduced, I felt like it was impossible for an animated feature to win Best Picture. Parasite became the first foreign language film to win both International Feature Film and Best Picture, but I don't ever see a film winning both Animated Feature and Picture. If WALL-E, Up, and Toy Story 3 can't do it, nothing will. And then Black Swan, I always felt that whole award season was too dark, too weird to take the Best Picture prize. Natalie Portman's brilliant, out-of-this-world performance, the place Academy voters could reward the film. But The Social Network? That one had a legitimate shot at a Best Picture victory after it won Best Director for David Fincher and Best Motion Picture Drama at the Golden Globe Awards, followed by Best Picture and Best Director at the Critics' Choice Awards. In a field of so many great movies, the absurdly captivating The Social Network stood out from the crowd with its assured storytelling, excellent performances, taut editing style, gorgeous cinematography, and phenomenal score. This film took my breath away in the theater in October 2010, and it's never failed to amaze me since. It's simply one of the best movies of the last 15 years. The Social Network didn't take SAG Ensemble, and it lost Best Picture at BAFTA, but Fincher won Director at BAFTA, and I felt like at the end of the day, the right director and picture had a very good chance to win at the Oscars. But then on February 27, 2011, the disappointment commenced, my suspicions became a reality, and my least favorite of the 10 Best Picture nominees, The King's Speech, took 4 of the night's top prizes: Best Original Screenplay for David Seidler, Best Actor for Colin Firth, Best Director for Tom Hooper, and Best Picture of the Year. I know a lot of people love The King's Speech, but those final 2 wins of the ceremony for me were big, fat letdowns. The question is why? How did that happen? How did a movie that really wasn't winning much at the beginning of award season come out from behind to take the Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture? Hi, I'm Brian Rowe. This is the Awards Contender, and in today's video we're talking the 83rd Academy Awards and why The King's Speech defeated The Social Network for Best Picture. Before we get to that final race, let's start by talking about the ceremony itself. Now, honestly, if there was anything about that year's Academy Awards that let me down more than those final 2 wins, it was the hosting jobs by Anne Hathaway and James Franco. Here were 2 people way out of their element who never should have taken the gig, and who certainly shouldn't have taken the gig together. Hathaway did her best. She's charming, she's fun. She was so radiant 2 years prior when she performed with Hugh Jackman on stage, but her chemistry with James Franco is so off right from the beginning that the two never recover. Franco's inability to deliver a joke or look like he even cares to be there didn't help. This is back in the day when Franco was anywhere and everywhere, acting, directing, teaching, showing up on General Hospital. Why not Oscar host? But the idea of putting Hathaway and Franco together was a bad one, and we all got to see disaster slowly unfold on stage in real time. I mean, just watch how Franco introduces Kirk Douglas.
What an honor it is to introduce one of the greatest screen actors of all time, a living legend, Mr. Kirk Douglas.
Again, Hathaway wasn't the problem here, it was Franco, who gave almost nothing to work with throughout the ceremony. It was obvious when Billy Crystal came on stage and the entire room gave him a standing ovation that, yeah, a host as gifted as him was sorely missed.
Anne Hathaway, you gave a stunning performance in Les Miserables. I have not seen someone so totally alone and abandoned like that since you were on stage with James Franco at the Oscars.
When it came to technical categories, the Academy spread the wealth, Inception taking prizes in cinematography, visual effects, and the sound categories, and Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland winning both art direction and costume design. The Social Network took film editing and original score, 2 fantastic wins. I've often played that score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross while I write, for going on 13 years now. It is a goddamn masterpiece of movie music. Toy Story 3 won Best Animated Feature, as expected. Adapted Screenplay went to Aaron Sorkin for The Social Network, and Original Screenplay went to David Seidler for The King's Speech, again, as expected. Probably the most random win of the night was for the maligned box office bomb The Wolfman, which took Best Makeup over, wait for it, Barney's Version and The Way Back. I think presenter Cate Blanchett said it best with this.
That's gross.
In the 4 acting categories, there were no surprises, this being one of those years where 4 actors mostly swept all season long. Christian Bale won Best Supporting Actor for The Fighter at Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, and SAG before his predicted Oscar victory after so many years of great performances. Jeffrey Rush took Best Supporting Actor at BAFTA for The King's Speech, but that win was too little too late. Same with Helena Bonham Carter, who took Best Supporting Actress at BAFTA, also for The King's Speech. I have been waiting for Carter to win an Academy Award for decades. Yes, an elusive Oscar video about her is in the cards. My choice for Best Supporting Actress that year was Amy Adams for The Fighter. It's a great performance, and it wouldn't put so much pressure on the 6-time, should have been 7-time nominated Adams to win an Oscar someday, but the voting bodies decided Melissa Leo gave the stronger performance in The Fighter, and so she won the Supporting Actress Oscar, her speech probably best remembered for her dropping the F-bomb.
When I watched Kate 2 years ago, it looked so easy. Oops.
When it came to Best Actor, we all knew going into the night Colin Firth was going to win, a year after he'd received his first Oscar nomination for his terrific performance in A Single Man. He'd won everything for The King's Speech up to this moment, including BAFTA, and thus there was no suspense here, so my enjoyment came from watching my favorite actress Sandra Bullock give a few minutes of jokes and kind words to the 5 Best Actor nominees. I especially love what she said to Jeff Bridges, nominated for True Grit.
You won this award last year. You know, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if, like, you maybe gave someone else a chance, staggered it a little bit? I mean, how much is enough?
It was a little sad to see that wonderful format from the 2009 ceremony of 5 previous winners in the category, giving the nominees individual introductions, slowly picked away, first in 2010 when it wasn't 5 previous winners, but just anyone affiliated with the nominee, and then in 2011, only the presenters for Best Actor and Best Actress saying something specific to each person before revealing the winner. But hey, at least it got to be my fave Sandra Bullock for Best Actor, and the great Jeff Bridges for Best Actress. He doesn't really make any jokes like Bullock did, but his beautiful words ring true for all 5 nominees. I especially love what he says to Annette Bening.
Throughout your magnificent career, you have always imbued your characters with strength and humanity that's impossible to turn away from. And this time around is no exception with your fierce and fragile performance in The Kids Are All Right.
The Best Actress category that year is one of the finest in recent memory, 5 stellar performances of the highest order, and one of my favorites is Annette Bening on her 4th Oscar nomination for her emotionally devastating turn in The Kids Are All Right. She won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Comedy or Musical, but really, nobody was beating Natalie Portman that year for Black Swan, after she too swept the season. If you're a fan of Bening, get ready. I'll be talking this race and many others in the coming very shortly Annette Bening and the Elusive Oscar. Now it's time to talk Best Picture. Before we get to The King's Speech and The Social Network, let's say a few words about the other 8 nominees in alphabetical order. Black Swan is such a cool picture nominee, one that shows a wild and terrifying descent into madness. The film took Best Director and Best Feature at Film Independent that year, but it was never going to win in either category at the Oscars due to its dark subject matter. Portman's actress victory, though, is an all-timer, and I love that Darren Aronofsky has at least one Academy Award nomination for Best Director. The Fighter was a well-made and celebrated year-end drama, the cast on fire in their performances. Christian Bale and Melissa Leo won Oscars in the supporting acting categories, of course, and David O. Russell received his first nomination for Best Director, but The Fighter had to contend with The King's Speech, really, as the consensus movie everybody likes, and it lost the match. I do think Mark Wahlberg missing out in Best Actor hurt the movie's chances too, showing that enthusiasm from Academy members could have been stronger. Inception is another fantastic Best Picture nominee from that year, a Christopher Nolan film finally making it in after The Dark Knight shockingly missed the category 2 years prior. Inception turned out to be Nolan's most original and daring film yet. Genre bias and Nolan's exclusion for Best Director hurt the film's chances for Best Picture, but it certainly cleaned house in technical categories, winning 4 total. The Kids Are All Right was a breath of fresh air in the summer of 2010, a smart and witty LGBTQ film with lovely performances from the adults and the kids. I would say its best chance at an Oscar win that year was in Best Original Screenplay, where it won at Film Independent, but in those final few weeks of the season, The King's Speech took control of many of those top categories, and The Kids Are All Right just couldn't overtake it. 127 Hours is a spectacular film, Danny Boyle's follow-up to Slumdog Millionaire, which won 8 Oscars 2 years prior, including director and picture. In 127 hours, Boyle manages to make a compelling feature-length drama about a man in a remote canyon with his arm pinned to a boulder, no easy feat. I would say of the 10 nominees, this probably got the least amount of votes for Best Picture. The movie not everyone's cup of tea, but I loved it. It did get 6 nominations total, including Best Actor for James Franco and Best Adapted Screenplay, so others loved it too. My favorite film of 2010 was Toy Story 3, and this would have been a rare, very much deserved circumstance for an animated film to win Best Picture. It's not just wonderful entertainment from beginning to end, it's an ambitious feat of storytelling that takes our beloved characters to hell and back again, with one of the most emotional endings to any animated movie ever made. Again, I'm happy it won Best Animated Feature, but if Steven Spielberg had surprised the whole world by announcing Toy Story 3 as the Best Picture winner, I would have gone completely berserk. True Grit is another awesome 2010 title, one that had to go up against the 1969 version starring John Wayne, but I think the Coen brothers version is better, with an amazing cast led by Jeff Bridges and Haley Steinfeld in a breakthrough performance. This was one of the last films of the year to open in theaters, so it took a while for it to gain momentum during award season. For example, it didn't show up anywhere at the Golden Globes. In a different year, the film could have done better at the Oscars if Bridges hadn't just won Best Actor for Crazy Heart, and if the Coen brothers hadn't recently won Director and Picture for No Country for Old Men. And Winter's Bone is a super cool inclusion in the category too, definitely the most indie movie of the bunch, a sensation out of the Sundance Film Festival that stayed relevant all the way through the year and into award season, helped a lot by the spectacular Jennifer Lawrence performance. BAFTA didn't go for Winter's Bone, but pretty much every other awards body loved it. The coming-of-age drama, a fascinating piece of storytelling. So that takes us to the final two nominees for Best Picture, The King's Speech and The Social Network. Really the only two movies that year that could have won the top prize. Let's start by discussing The Social Network. This was the film that at first sounded like it would be a total train wreck. A movie about the origins of Facebook? Seriously? I remember I made pretend vomit sounds to my friends when I first heard about the project, but then I shut the hell up very quickly when I saw Aaron Sorkin was writing the screenplay and David Fincher was directing. My enthusiasm continued to grow when I saw the fascinating cast choices and that creative first trailer, and then I saw the movie. Holy shit. What a masterpiece. The story of Mark Zuckerberg creating Facebook turning out to be one of the most compelling films we'd seen in a long while.
Mark! Mark!
He's wired in.
Sorry?
He's wired in.
Is he?
Yes.
How about now? You still wired in?
The Social Network soon appeared on Best of the Year lists from almost every critic, won tons of critics' prizes, then it became the Oscar frontrunner after winning in top categories at both the Golden Globe Awards and the Critics' Choice Awards. At the Golden Globes, The Social Network won 4 prizes: Best Original Score, Best Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Motion Picture Drama. A great start, especially seeing Fincher finally take a televised trophy.
So, suffice it to say, it's been really nice. And go to bed, Felix. Thank you.
And then it performed just as strong at Critics' Choice, taking Best Score, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture. The Social Network got into Best Ensemble at SAG. It received 6 BAFTA Award nominations, and then on Oscar nominations morning, The Social Network did extremely well, getting into 8 categories, including Best Actor for Jesse Eisenberg, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture. Andrew Garfield missed Best Supporting Actor, which still irks me to this day. He should be there. But yeah, things were looking very good for this most extraordinary film. But then the tides turned, like it would 4 years later with Richard Linklater's Boyhood, a critically acclaimed drama, winning lots of televised awards early in the season, only for the consensus favorite to shift to something else. And in 2011, halfway through award season, voters turned against The Social Network and embraced The King's Speech, the crowd-pleasing true story about King George VI, who got help from a speech therapist to overcome his stammer.
In your head now. I have a right to be bloody well heard.
Bloody well heard, bloody well heard, bloody well heard, bloody well heard, bloody well heard myself!
Now waltz.
With a fantastic ensemble cast, raves out of the Telluride and Toronto Film Festivals, and an awards-friendly theatrical release of Christmas Day, we all should have seen The King's Speech coming. Its only big wins early on were for Colin Firth and Best Actor. Even for those who liked but didn't love the movie, everybody could get behind a Firth victory. He had proven his worth the year before with A Single Man, and now he had been given the role of his lifetime that perfectly suited his sensibilities and showcased so many comedic and dramatic shades. At first it seemed like Best Actor would be the only place for The King's Speech to win things, the same way Best Actress was the only surefire category to award Black Swan. Only Firth won at Golden Globes, and then Firth and screenwriter David Seidler won at Critics' Choice. The big shift happened at SAG, the ceremony that always has the ability to move the season's momentum to a different movie, like it did years prior with Shakespeare in Love and Crash. Firth won again for Best Actor, and then The King's Speech beat The Social Network in the Best Ensemble category. Uh-oh. I think we'd seen this story before. Yep, I spent the next few weeks watching The King's Speech, maybe my least favorite awards contender of the season, take DGA for Tom Hooper, and PGA as well. We all knew The King's Speech would do well at BAFTA, that seemed obvious, but even after The King's Speech got a whopping 12 Oscar nominations, I kept my fingers crossed that David Fincher could still win the Academy Award for Best Director after he shockingly beat out Hooper at BAFTA. I mean, that seemed telling. Losing at DGA hurt Fincher's chances. I still can't believe DGA went for Hooper over Fincher, but Fincher taking BAFTA made me think an Oscar win was still possible.
David Fincher, who just won this award, would have loved to have been here, genuinely. But he's busy making his next gift for all of us in another country.
And throughout the 83rd Academy Awards, my hope remained, The King's Speech being overlooked in all the technical categories, while The Social Network took home film editing and original score. Sorkin and Seidler won the 2 screenplay prizes, and Firth won his expected actor trophy. But this was still anyone's game, I thought. Even Picture could have gone to The Social Network, What an incredible victory that would have been. But no, Tom Hooper won Best Director over Fincher, and then for Best Picture, Steven Spielberg announced
The King's Speech. Ian Canning, Emil Sherman, and Gareth Unwin producers.
For me, this was an anticlimactic ending to an award season that had started so promising, with the richer, more long-lasting The Social Network winning things left and right. So how did The King's Speech do it? How did it overtake The Social Network to win the Best Picture Oscar? Here are the top 5 reasons. The first and most important reason was that it was the warmer, more crowd-pleasing movie. Something that obviously hurt The Social Network those last few weeks was just how cold and cynical the narrative can be at times. It's not a film you wrap your arms around, it's about characters you don't really come to love, and it has a downer ending. It wasn't going to be a movie to everyone's taste, and if you felt like turning your back on The Social Network, what was the more feel-good title you could throw your vote at? The King's Speech, of course. It's a good film, it's fine. Was it the best motion picture of 2010? I feel like that could be argued, but back in early 2011, no one was going to roll their eyes at you for voting for The King's Speech. It was the beloved movie of the moment that pretty much nobody hated. It was the easy go-to if you didn't much care for The Social Network. The second reason was the preferential ballot, the Oscar voting system implemented once the Best Picture nominees were expanded from 5 to 10 films. I've always found this system to favor not the best movie in the category, but the one most people like. The winner doesn't need to get lots of 1s and 2s, it just needs to be the film that gets the most 3s and 4s. I'm sure many members gave The Social Network 1s, but some also probably put it dead last at 10, while even those who didn't much care for The King's Speech probably put it at 5 or 6. The same way Green Book was able to win Best Picture 8 years later, The King's Speech benefited big time from the preferential ballot. The third reason was that disgraced man who comes up time and time again, Harvey Weinstein, who was behind the awards campaign for The King's Speech. Remember, all the way through the 2017 awards campaign for Lion, Weinstein was behind the scenes every year, throwing lots of money at The Chosen One. The ads for The King's Speech were everywhere, so were the actors and director, and he also drummed up publicity for the film by suggesting it deserved a PG-13 rating from the MPAA. A PG-13 version did eventually make its way to theaters. His award season influence, I believe, helped get The Reader into Best Director and Best Picture 2 years prior, and once again, his awards campaign for The King's Speech took off by February, anyone not quite sure where to put their votes getting the word that The King's Speech was the best choice.
Harvey, who first took me on 20 years ago, when I was a mere child sensation.
The fourth reason was The King's Speech momentum growing after its SAG Ensemble win and all those BAFTA victories, like Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress, Actor, and Picture. That Fincher win at BAFTA kept The Social Network's chances in the top categories alive a little while longer, but I do think The King's Speech taking SAG Ensemble was the bloody knife wound in The Social Network's backside that was never going to heal. We've seen time and time again in recent years how important a strong showing at SAG is. Parasite taking Ensemble, Everything Everywhere All at Once dominating a few months ago, and then going on to win 7 Oscars. The Social Network desperately needed a win at SAG, but it came up short. And the fifth reason was The King's Speech winning at both DGA and PGA. It's really hard in recent years to lose DGA and PGA and then go on to win the Best Picture Oscar. I would argue it's almost impossible. Sometimes you can have a Bong Joon-ho surprise after Sam Mendes won DGA for 1917, Little Miss Sunshine won PGA in 2007, and then lost Best Picture at the Oscars to The Departed. Rules are always made to be broken, of course, but The Social Network needed to win one of those, and DGA for Fincher would have made the most sense. I think if Fincher had won at DGA, he would have won the Oscar too. But Hooper's DGA victory showed that enthusiasm for The King's Speech was growing with each passing week, and by the time Oscar voting came around, there was simply no stopping it. In the years since, The King's Speech victories at the Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture don't enrage me, but they also don't sit well with me either. There were so many greater 2010 movies to give the prizes to that year, so many movies that better represented a spectacular year in film. The King's Speech? Really? The Best Picture of 2010? Come on now. More than a decade on, The Social Network clearly should have been the Best Picture winner, and David Fincher should have won his Oscar for Best Director. Tom Hooper's victory looks really awkward now, after his dismal 2019 musical Cats crash and burn, while Fincher has continued to impress with films like Gone Girl and Mank, and the television series Mindhunter. Again, The King's Speech isn't a terrible win for Best Picture, it's just shrug-worthy. It's so-so, a statistic in an Oscar history book that hasn't aged well. We could have had one of the most awesome Best Picture wins of the last 20 years in The Social Network, or Black Swan, or Toy Story 3. Instead, we got a middle-of-the-road period drama that entertained critics and audiences and awards voters for a few months, and ever since has been mostly forgotten. It's not Green Book bad, trust me, we'll get to Green Book. But in my eyes, The King's Speech isn't half the movie The Social Network is. That is the gem, the masterpiece, the best picture of 2010. Thanks so much for watching! If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments below, what was your choice to win Best Picture at the 83rd Academy Awards? Was The King's Speech the right win? Or did you prefer, like me, The Social Network? We'll see you next time at the awards contender.